Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. Today, I have the good fortune to be joined by Chuck Cooper from Whitewater Consulting, where they help you build a multi-generational business while balancing people and profit. I can't wait to dive in. Chuck, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Seth. It's great to be here.
It is great to have you. Let's go back in time just a little bit. How did you get started?
So I started Whitewater Consulting about 6 years ago. Long story short, if I go back, I grew up in a family-owned business. So I've been involved in family businesses and at the ownership level of 6 different companies over the last 30 years. And I knew from the time that I got out of my previous position, I knew at some point I wanted to open up my own company again and get back into the consulting side. And I love working with small and mid-sized business owners. And so this just allowed me at the time that I started Whitewater to really kind of do a roll-up of everything that I've done the last 30 years and continue to serve and support those who I consider to be my heroes.
Awesome. So how did Whitewater come about?
That's a great question. So Whitewater, as I was starting the company, I wanted to come up with a name that would be something that could resonate with business owners and generate a great story for me as well. What I did not think about was in Charlotte, where I'm located, we have the National Whitewater Center. So everyone, that's the #1 question that I have every day is, are you part of the Whitewater Center? And the reality is I'm not, but it gives me a great opportunity to share my story. So the backstory to Whitewater was several years ago, I was part of a group of guys. There was 4 of us that we did a 3-week canoe trip up through the river and lake systems in Canada. And about halfway through that trip, we were looking at the maps, trying to navigate our way through and trying to decide whether we should pull over to shore and empty out the canoes, carry them down, past the rapids, put back in. That seemed like a lot of work. So we decided we would just shoot through both sets of the rapids. As we came through the first set, we came through with no issues at all. But I was in the front canoe, and as we came through and we were heading towards what we thought was the second set of rapids, we realized that we were hearing a roar at this other end of the water. And what turned out, it actually turned out to be about a 20-foot waterfall instead of another set of rapids. And so the partner and I in our canoe, we were paddling like crazy, trying to get out of the water and trying to get to shore. And we were actually working against each other in many ways. Fortunately for us, the gentleman or one of the gentlemen in the back canoe had been through a very similar experience a few years before. And he was giving very, very specific instructions to each of us as to what we should do, paddling on the right side, left side, paddling forward to go backwards. Anyway, through his instructions, we were able to get the canoe turned, to get out of the current and to get to shore. What I took away from that experience was that #1, having real life experience is important. And #2, taking the wisdom and the knowledge that you learn from that real life experience, being able to communicate that in a way that is easily understood, can be applied, and lands on people to where they have confidence is really important as well. So I wanted to be able to take an experience like that and be able to be the guide for our clients to help the employers navigate their way of handling the people and operating their businesses.
So you're consulting on the navigating the white waters of business, so to speak.
That's the way the story goes. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Who is an ideal client for you?
An ideal client is really a business owner that has between, say, 15 to 20 employees, up to as large as about 500 employees. And we're pretty much industry agnostic, but what we really focus on, we focus on the mindset of either the business owner or the leadership team. And when we focus on that, we're looking for business owners who are willing to invest in themselves, who are coachable, who are open-minded, and also who see their people as an important part of their company, if not a very valuable asset.
Okay. Is there a particular industry you've had more experience in, worked in better, et cetera?
So probably when you look at our client base and looking at this over the long term, we probably do have a greater impact with people in the I was going to say transportation, but more so in the warehouse, the manufacturing and logistics is where a lot of our clients come from today.
Okay. And what are some of the biggest challenges that they're facing that you're helping them solve?
Right now, since COVID, especially, obviously a lot of our world changed, and it really became a fascinating place to be is in the area of HR. So when we look at the challenges that business owners are coming to us for help with today, it has to do with talent acquisition, talent retention strategies, company culture, leadership and manager training and development, are some of the key services that they're reaching out to us to help with.
And talk a little bit about your process.
So our process we try to take a very consultative approach. So I try to start every relationship out with a discovery. So at the end of the day, I want to be able to come in to meet with someone like yourself, have an in-depth conversation about what's happening within the company, what some of the challenges are, and what is going well within your company. And then from that discovery, we will provide a report back to our client that really outlines the challenges and the gaps that we found. And from that, then they prioritize that list. And what we do from there is I have a network of about 35 companies that serve as my solution providers. And so I match my clients up with the people in my network to be the solution provider for them. And it generates a win-win-win relationship with everyone. So the client's they're getting their problems solved by a provider that has been vetted and is well trusted, and then the network is actually getting clients that are being brought to them that are ideal client profile, matches up with their ideal client profile. So it allows me to be able to manage both of those relationships and create really a very positive experience for everybody involved.
That's awesome. I know you've worked with a lot of different companies over the time you've been doing this. Can you give us an example? And if the client identity is confidential, just make it ABC Incorporated and kind of say, here's the company, here was the issues they were having when they came to us, and then here's kind of the magical transformation you were able to engineer by working with them and what those results were.
Absolutely. So I've got several stories. In fact, I share some of these stories in my first book that I put out in 2022. But the one story that comes to mind, Seth, is there's a company in South Carolina that the owner had reached out to me, and he said, when I walk in the doors of my company, I feel a sense of stress. And he said as soon as it basically is permeated through every department within our organization. And I don't know where the problem is. I need for somebody to come in and help us with this. And so we came in and spent some time with the owner and the leadership team. And we also did some interviews with the different department managers and some of their key employees. And what we found was they had a multi-generational workforce that was there. And there was a challenge with a mindset of this is the way we have always done things for decades and we are not going to change. Well, when you're bringing new people into the organization, a lot of times they're going to bring new ideas. And so the new people were coming in, looking at the situations and saying, we have ideas on how we can make this better. They were being shut down. And so became a lot of tension between the different departments and within the older, more seasoned employees and the newer employees that were there. What we ended up coming in and doing was actually, I worked with their HR team and we came up with a survey that we did for the employees, and we were able to identify different gaps or different groups of the employees that had common interest outside of work. It may have been college football. It may have been wine tasting. It could have been exercise. And we started putting these groups together. And over a 3 to 4 month period, we've started helping them have activities outside of their work. That led to relationships getting formed outside of work. And what they found was a 65-year-old and a 22-year-old had a common interest around football. They began to develop personal relationships. That opened up the communication for the departments and the teams that they worked on within the business. And the tension started to ease. And the business owner recognized this after about 4 months. And he said, I want to continue this through the end of the year. So we went through and continued doing that for the next 6 months. And it was at the end of that time, he sent me a message. He said, mission accomplished. Tension's gone. Team's working great. And we actually had our best year ever. So those are the type of things that we really take a lot of pride in.
That is absolutely incredible. Now, do you ever get any type of pushback in terms of implementing your recommendations?
All the time. So what's really been interesting, to give you just a story around that, I have 2 business owners that I have been working with now for the last year. They are in the same marketplace. They're in the same industry. About 15 months ago, they were the same size as far as headcount, revenue, and one business owner has been extremely open to new ideas in the coaching. The other one has been very, very resistant to implementing anything different. I've continued to work and to coach with both of these business owners on a monthly basis during this time. What's really been fascinating, the business owner that has been very resistant came to me about 4 months ago and said, Chuck, something is not right. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. And that was the moment where his mask came off and he said, I'm being vulnerable at this point. I need help. Because what happened when I looked at their numbers and their performance, the company that had been coachable, that was willing to look at things differently and actually implement some different strategies, they were growing at about 35 to 38% a year. The business owner that was resistant was actually, he had declined by about 3% in the same time period. He knew he was losing people. He knew he was falling behind. He just didn't realize how much. So that is, a classic example of what can happen if you're not willing to be open-minded and coachable in today's world.
Amen to that. Tell us about the 2 books you've written and what inspired you to write them.
So I appreciate you asking about that, Seth. The first book was called Unprecedented, and it was really written during COVID. I really wanted to get better at just being able to communicate better with my clients. So my thought process was, I'm just going to get up each morning and I'm going to write, not paying attention so much to the content, but just getting in that habit. And what we found was, after doing that for about probably 3 to 4 months, was that there were some common threads going through the writings. And we put this into a manuscript, sent that off to a couple of editors, and they came back and said, your timing on this really is good because so much has changed around leadership and about company culture and HR best practices, those type of things. So that book came out, and that was just a lot of my personal story, and as well as some of my client stories were built around that book. But what's really interesting, that book has been my lead magnet for a lot of probably about 60% of my new business over the last 2 years. One of the things that I had the opportunity to do was to speak to a group of international students at Georgetown University in July of 2022. And their number one question they had for me that day was, my parents have spent they spent their entire time, all their life, trying to build this business or trying to operate and get things off the ground. There's a expectation that I'm going to be the ones coming in as the next leader taking over the company. And the reality was, I want nothing to do with it. How do I have that conversation with them? So wow. I took that question. I could never get that question out of my mind, Seth. It was always there. And so I decided in January of 2023, that I was going to go out on a mission and start to really to interview business owners across the country. We had the opportunity during the first 4 months of that year to interview just over 1,000 business owners across the U.S. And what we found was that 68% of them did not have a succession plan or an exit plan in place. And when you look at the statistic of 70% of businesses fail between the first generation or the founders and the second generation. And as someone that grew up in family-owned business, I thought that hurt my heart to know that we're losing 70% of businesses in that period. So I spent from March until August of this year writing and getting the book published. And so our second book is called The Family Business Blueprint. It's about creating your succession roadmap. And it's really written for family-owned businesses, but the same principles apply to small and mid-sized businesses across the country. And so we're out on a mission right now to have as many conversations and to be able to challenge business owners to give some time and thought to putting in place a succession plan.
I mean, that's awesome. And we'll make sure to let people know where they can go get those books. You've achieved so much success over the years, not only for your business, but also for more importantly, for the clients. What is your biggest challenge now?
I think biggest challenge is balance, trying to balance out the time that it takes to be able to give my clients the time and the support that they need to be able to generate new business, to be able to continue to be a father and a husband and a papa to my grandkids. Just trying to balance life out. I thought, quite honestly, when I got to be in my 60s, I would have thought that life would start to slow down just a little bit. The reality is it has gotten faster, and I'm enjoying it, but there's a part of me that I want to really come back to being focused on being present wherever I am, whether it's with my clients or whether it is, with my family. Wherever my feet are, I need to be present at that moment. So that's my biggest challenge.
Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
I love, again, my heart is really, it's got a soft spot for entrepreneurs and for business owners. They bring, I think they are the key. They are the DNA to the fabric of our country. And I think they bring so much value to our society and to the communities that we're a part of. I wanted, as long as I've got breath, I want to be able to continue to be engaged with them and to serve and support and help them achieve not just success, but I want to help a lot of these people achieve significance along the way.
That makes a lot of sense. For our folks who are watching and listening and want to learn more about Whitewater and all things Chuck, where is the best place for us to send them?
So the two best places, Seth, one is my website is whitewaterconsulting.net. And also I'm on LinkedIn all the time, so you can connect with me there on LinkedIn as well. And if somebody wants to reach out to me personally, my email is chuck@whitewaterconsulting.net.
All right. Well, we know your time is incredibly valuable. We greatly appreciate it. Go check out whitewaterconsulting.net. Check out Chuck. Check out the books for sure. Chuck, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Seth. It's been a blast.
Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.